glad that you're here. We're glad that Brandy is here joining us today. This is Brandy Jones. Hey, there's somebody coming in right there. So I'll open that. Brandy, I'm instead of doing an introduction, I'll just let you tell what you want to tell about yourself and then jump right into your presentation because we want to make the most of your time today. So thanks for joining us, and the floor and or screen is yours.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me today. And I'm excited to be with all of y'all to talk about one of the things that I love, and that is social media and ministry. So I actually I have a PowerPoint or a slide on my PowerPoint that goes into who I am. So we'll just jump right into the presentation and we'll have a little fun. If you have any questions, I guess just let Jerry know or let me know, and I'll be glad to answer those. And just one disclaimer, I talk really fast. So if at any point you need me to slow down or kind of explain something, let us know in the chat. And then Jerry, if you can just let me know, and I'll be sure to answer that question. I'll also provide my information at the end of this, and you can reach out to me. So let me get into my screen here. And 1 second, there we go. All right, so today we're going to be talking about how to build a social media ministry. Even if you have a social media ministry, this presentation hopefully will be helpful to you because it just kind of makes sure, it will help you to make sure that you have everything in place. So the first thing, let me get over here. There we go. So the first thing, let's just kind of talk about what we're going to go over today. And that is, we're going to talk about what is social media, why it's important, the types of networks, and I'm going to move my camera here so I can actually look at y'all. The benefits of social media and how to build a team. And then we're going to go over some just basic tools that every social media ministry should have, and look at some inspiration, the accounts that I go to when I'm just looking for some content inspiration. So who am I? My name is Brandy Jones, and I am the marketing specialist for WMU of Texas. I've been here for, I guess I started right when the shelter in place orders happened last year. So it's been an exciting year. And my job here is just to help WMU tell their story and to help them to, or I should say us, to help us attract a younger demographic. And a part of that is actually helping churches with their social media as well. So I absolutely love the organization I work for. And I actually kind of just want to, because they kind of help me to do what I do on a daily basis, I just want to tell you all about WMU a little bit. So if you're not familiar with WMU, we are an organization that believes in intentionally making disciples. By doing three things, we help you to engage in local missions, and that's by giving you curriculum for all different age levels. So if you've heard of Awanas, we kind of have, our curriculum as well that's similar to that if you need like a picture in your mind, and it's for preschool all the way up to adults. So if you're interested in that, definitely go to our website, and that was on my contact page. We also help you to establish partnerships for missions. And this is what I'm really excited about because I've always had a missions heart. Definitely loved serving when I was a kid, and I still do today. So we can help partner you with whatever you're passionate about. Maybe you want to partner with Texas Baptist Men, or you want to do something along the border. We will help you to connect with those organizations so you can serve in that way. But we also, and the third thing is we help you, or we empower others for worldwide missions. So hopefully, if you are a Baptist in Texas, you've heard of the Mary Hill Davis offering. And that is an offering that kind of pays for all kind of our missions work in Texas, or we kind of support missions work in Texas. And it actually supports what I'm doing here today. So helping pastors and leaders with their social media ministry. So our goal this year is 3.5 million. And we're on our way to that. We're not quite there yet. So if you want to learn more about that, we built a brand new website during the pandemic last year, or we're still in the pandemic, but still, that is iamtexasmissions.org. And you can learn more about that offering. So now you know more about WMU and me. Let's just kind of jump into what is social media. So social media is a computer-based technology that facilitates the sharing of ideas and thoughts and information, but it also allows us to build networks and allows us to build community. What I love about this definition is it doesn't say that social media is just us using it to just announce, and not actually building relationships. That building relationships is what social media is all about. It's not one-way communication, it's two-way. So why should your church use social media? Well, I always go back to Matthew 28, 19, and 20. Anytime I'm leading a workshop, because there's a lot of things in here that are important, but what's in that first sentence that kind of stands out? And that should be go, right? It says, therefore, go and make disciples. It doesn't say wait for people to come to your church building. It doesn't say people are going to show up to your church building. It says, go and make disciples of all nations. And then it also says towards the bottom, teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. Well, guess what? We have this amazing tool in our pockets to do exactly that. So let's be honest with ourselves, whether we like it or not, the general trend, even amongst the most committed members, and this is especially last year, we saw this, all across the world, is that fewer people are attending church regularly. More and more people are spending their Sunday mornings attending church via a social media network. So I don't know about y'all, but a lot of us had to shut our doors when it came down to the pandemic, and we had to rely on YouTube. We had to rely on Facebook. And if you have a church app, or maybe you have your media on your website, we had to rely on all of that in order to continue to share the gospel and to build that community and to have church with our members. And the only thing that we're seeing now is that we got used to attending church from home throughout the pandemic. And we're starting to see a slow trickle of people coming back to the building. But as we continue to have these variants and everything else that's going on in the world, we may not see the numbers that we saw pre-pandemic. So we need to say, okay, what can we do? What tools can we use to continue to reach the people in our congregations or in our community with the gospel? And that is using social media. I love this stat from Google Insights, and it says more than 30,000 people a month search Google using the phrase church online. So that means people are actively searching the internet to connect with a community of faith that doesn't require them to get in their car. That is crazy. So if 30,000 people are actively searching for Jesus online every month, how many more need him but aren't looking? So it's not only our job to reach those people who are searching, but we also need to use our tools to reach those who aren't even, or who don't even know that they're looking for a solution to their problems. So what does that mean for us? It means that we need to get to work. And evangelism is all about bringing Christ to people exactly where they are, learning their language and their culture to engage them in a life-changing message of God with us. So how do we do that? Well, we have to first begin to discover the church in a new place, and that is through social media. So what are the different types of networks? I'm going to cover the high level ones because there's a new network every single month, but every single year there's a new platform that says, hey, you need to join us. But for the main ones that all churches should at least know about or have an account on are these. The very first one is Facebook. Hopefully everyone watching this knows what Facebook is. I will let you know that Facebook is the new church website. What that means is that millennials, I just put a whole bunch of generations together. Millennials and Gen Zers, they tend to go to social media to learn about whatever they're interested in. So that could be your church, that could be a restaurant, that could be your organization, that could be a vacation spot. They want to go and see what information you have out there about yourself, but two, what are other people saying about your brand or your organization? And then once they're attracted on social media or they see what they want to see, then they go to your church website. Well, that tells me is that if they're not going to my church website first, then I need to make sure that I go exactly where they are. And Facebook is one of those platforms. Another thing that I love about Facebook is that it is a platform that allows you to build community. As far as I know, there's no other platform out there, maybe like WhatsApp, but there's no other platform out there that actually allows you to build community. Everything is kind of one-way communication, and then you can use a comment thread to go in there and kind of have a conversation back and forth with someone. But with Facebook, you can create a Facebook group. And in that group, it's not just you talking to your audience, it's your audience kind of chiming in as well. It's them building relationships with each other. And if there's no other platform that your church wants to be on, I would say you should be on Facebook just for that reason. Because I personally believe that every ministry in your church should have a Facebook group so they can do life together outside of the couple of hours they're together at the church building. Now, if not every ministry, at least your main ministry. So your deacon ministry, your men's ministry, women's, and maybe the parents of your children's ministry. These are all places for them to say, okay, you know what? I have a question. I have a prayer request. Can you help me? Or maybe I just want to share something exciting in my life and I don't want to wait till Sunday to tell you. This is a place where they can do it. All right, the next one is YouTube. Hopefully everyone here also knows what YouTube is. YouTube is the leading search engine in the world. And I don't know if y'all know this, but YouTube is owned by Google. So you first have Google out there and then YouTube is right underneath it. As a millennial, I will let you know that I don't know how I have gotten through life without YouTube. I know I did before I became an adult, but it's amazing how not just millennials, but every generation that's coming after us, anytime they want to know something about anything, they're going to type it into Google and they're going to type it into YouTube to find the answer. So if they are going to those two platforms for the answers to everything about life, guess where you need to be? You need to have some type of presence on YouTube or have a presence within your background information so it shows up in the SEO in that search engine optimization on Google. So what does that mean? Well, that means putting your services on a YouTube channel. That means not just putting into your services a description or the title of your video, live stream and the date, because I see churches do that all the time. Instead, it should say, what is the sermon about? That's what your title should be. In a description, you should describe what solution your sermon will answer. So think about a question somebody would have when they hear your message. And then think about what that solution would be, and then put that description inside your YouTube video description. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because if I go to Google and I type in, or I go into YouTube and I type in, how do I save my marriage? Or what tips do I need to keep in mind when it comes to Christian dating? Well, if your sermon message or whatever video your church puts out on YouTube is about that topic, but it just says the date, and it says live stream, guess what? Your video is not going to show up in the search results. So you want to make sure that you are titling your videos correctly, and you're also putting a description underneath your videos that describes what that message is about. So when people go to those platforms to search for those answers, your video will be right there. Next, we have Instagram. Instagram is my favorite platform. It's crazy. I hate to say this, but we don't like to read anymore. We're very visual driven, and Instagram is that platform that allows you to tell your story visually. So what you shouldn't be doing with Instagram is that you shouldn't just be putting, graphics up of your church flyer, your events flyer, right? You should be showcasing what it's like to be a member at your church on this platform. Now, if you're trying to reach a demographic of 30 and under, guess where you need to be? It's going to be Instagram. If you're trying to reach an older demographic, you may want to focus on Facebook. But, if you have a photographer at your church, or maybe you have a youth ministry at your church who's ready to be online, I would say definitely consider Instagram. Now, keep in mind, when people go to a church page on Instagram, here's what they're looking for. They want to know what does he sound like? What is his sermons like? What does the congregation look like? What is it like to attend service there? What is the worship music like? What kind of testimonies do the members have? What is it like to be in the children's ministry? These are all different ways that you can use video content or photo content to answer those questions. Make sure that you just don't use it to share graphics. You use it to tell a story. And then we have TikTok. And hopefully all of y'all know what TikTok is, but if you do not, TikTok is a platform that allows you to just put really short form video content out there. Not like Snapchat, which I don't think we're going to cover today, but Snapchat puts out disappearing content. So it's only out there for about 24 hours. But with TikTok, and this is going to be if you're trying to reach high schoolers or even younger, but also there is a large demographic of older adults on there because it's just an entertaining platform. I would say consider using TikTok if you have really great short form video content, or if you're just comfortable with, doing a quick 30-second or maybe a 60-second devotional. This is going to be the platform for you. I think at the end of this presentation, I give you some examples of some churches that are doing really well on TikTok, so you can kind of see how you can navigate this for your church. So if you are interested in reaching new audiences, there is not like the other platforms, but the algorithm on TikTok is not as strict as it is on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and everything else that's out there. So if you are interested in getting eyes on your content, TikTok is a great place for you to be. And then we have Pinterest. And a lot of churches are sleeping on Pinterest. Every time I go on there, I'm like, okay, let me see if some more churches have joined this platform. And it's the same ones. I keep seeing the same ones all the time. So this is a great way for you to get out there and be competitive. And that's my marketing brain speaking there. But it's a great way for you to get out there and actually get a lot of viewers on your content, because there's not a lot of churches out there providing value. So how can you use Pinterest? Well, you can have your ministries post what they're learning this week or this month or whenever. You can have a board dedicated to like the library, which is behind Dave there. You can have a board dedicated to what your pastor's reading or his sermon topics. You can have boards dedicated to like recipes for your women's ministry. They can share, their favorites, and maybe you can share that board during the holidays, during Christmas and November. There's a ton of different ways that you can use Pinterest. But here's why I love Pinterest, because it is a web traffic generator. And that's not just today. That could be 5 years from now. That could be 10 years from now. If you were to pin all of your sermons on Pinterest today, 5 years from now, someone can see that. And if the right person sees it and they have a huge following, they can share it with their audience. And now you just got hundreds of thousands of views on a sermon that you posted 5 years ago. So this is a great way for you to drive traffic, not only to your website, but to your YouTube page, to your Facebook page, to your Instagram page. It's a traffic generator. So if that's something that you're interested in, I would love to talk to you more about Pinterest. Definitely reach out to me. So those are all the main platforms that your church should be considering. And I put on this presentation the benefits of social media, but I'm not going to cover this today for time's sake. But it's a part of the presentation that I have, the handout that I have provided for you. So I want you to go through and look at these, because if you are trying to inform your church leadership or your pastor why your church needs to be on social media, I want you to go to these 4 slides and say, well, 1, we need to build relationships. 2, it's a great way to communicate. 3, it's great for education. And then 4, it allows us to train virtually. So definitely go and check those out. But what I really want to dive into before our time is done here is how to build a social media ministry at your church. So let's get started. So the very first thing that you need is a social media plan. Now, a social media plan focuses on getting people to your building for a couple hours every weekend. However, you also need to say, okay, I have a plan, but that's not what my social media ministry is about. Now, the plan gets people to the building. Your ministry focuses on how to help people grow in their faith through social technology after they leave the building. So in order to be successful with this whole entire thing, you need both of those. You need a plan that not only focuses, you need a strategy that not only focuses on the plan to get people there, but you also need to build disciples. And that's where your ministry comes into play. So how do you do that? Well, the very first thing you need to do is define your why. So if you are taking notes, this is what I want you to write down on the top of your sheet of paper. Is number 1, what is our why? Why does our church want to be on social media? Because this is what you're always going to refer back to as you create content month after month and year after year. If you're creating content that doesn't speak to your why, then you're just creating content to create content, and that doesn't serve anyone. So there's a ton of different whys out there. It could be maybe we want to build stronger relationships with our followers, or maybe we want to build awareness, or maybe want to connect with our members or build a community. It could be all of those things, but what you really want to do is figure out what your why is, and you can have up to 3 whys. I think anything more than 3 is going to be too much. And I like to put those on a note sheet or like a note card, and I put it up above my desk. So every time I create content, I'm looking back at that why. Now, when I'm building that content, I ask myself, okay, does this piece of content help me to build stronger relationships with my followers? If it doesn't, scratch it, move on. If what I'm doing online today with engagement, does it help me to build stronger relationships with my followers? If it doesn't, then I need to figure out, what do I need to do in order to do that? So defining your why is number one. Number two is you need to define your target audience. And this is so, so important. The reason I say that is, have you ever been scrolling through, let's say, Facebook, and you come across a post that had you thinking, oh my goodness, they are reading my mind? Now, there's a couple things happening there. I do believe there's platforms out there like Facebook that are listening to our conversations, because there's been too many freaky situations that have happened. But two, there are marketers on the back end, and they are doing this exact exercise. They are learning everything they can about you, and they are writing down everything there is to know about you, so they can create content that has you thinking they are reading my mind, or content that has you saying, I had that question and I can't believe the solution is right here. So as a church, we need to be doing the same thing. And that starts with building a target persona. So what does that look like? Well, this is a 2 to 4 week exercise. And this is an entire workshop by itself, but I'm going to try to cover it very high level here. So this is a 2 to 4 week exercise. And I bring everybody to the table. That's the pastor. I bring church staff. I bring any other kind of ministry leaders. I have the social media team there. I have the media team there. And then that's the first step. But then I also bring in the people that we're trying to reach after that first meeting with everyone at the church. And what we do is we sit down and we kind of do this on a whiteboard, or we do this on sheets of paper. And we say, okay, who are we trying to reach in our community? And who are we trying to reach in our church? And there's usually about 2 to 3 audiences that we're trying to reach. So for example, when we did this back home at my church in South Texas, we said, okay, we're trying to reach young families, we're trying to reach senior adults, and we're trying to reach oil field workers and young men. Those are our 4 audiences. So we put those audiences at the top of 4 sheets of paper, and then we just, as a team, wrote down everything there is to know about those different audiences. So we focused on demographics, then we looked at interests and goals, and then we looked at pain points, and then we looked at celebrations. And this is how that looks. So here's an example. So Jane is a single mother, and it pays to actually give your target personas names so you can actually kind of envision somebody when you're doing this exercise. So for this particular example, we said, okay, we're going to try to reach single mothers, and we're trying to reach Jane. Jane is 32 years old. She lives in Dallas, Texas. She has 1 child. She's college educated. She's in a mid-level career position, and she has modest income, but she's experiencing some financial pressure. She's also single and she's dating. She rents an apartment. She shops at like Walmart and Target. And she kind of struggles on a monthly basis when it comes to monthly bills and childcare and just having some alone time. You see, now this was just us brainstorming what we knew about single mothers. Now, we take this exercise and we go a little bit step further. We say, okay, now that we've done all that we can as a team to brainstorm what we know about single mothers, now we need to go out there and find extra data. And we use tools like Google Trends. We use tools like surveys, where we go out and we put a church survey out there to our audience and say, okay, we'll give you a great prize if you fill out this survey for us. And that's just more way for us to get information about our audience. But we also do polls on social media, and we do polls randomly throughout the week. So that's another way for you to gather data. Now, again, remember I said this takes about 2 to 4 weeks. So we continue this process by going a little step further and saying, okay, let's bring some single mothers to the table. And let's just ask them some questions about what they're going through in life. What are their pain points? What are their celebrations? What are their hobbies? What are their interests? What are they reading? What do they like to shop? And then we add that to our target persona. So at the end of 3 or 4 weeks, you should have multiple sheets of paper for 1 target audience. Now, here's what we do with that. Now that we know everything there is to know about the specific audience, we go and ask ourselves, as a church, how can we answer some of these pain points? How can we speak to some of these celebrations in life? How can we speak to their career background? And here's an example of that. If we know that a single mother is looking for a new career, and we have a job ministry at our church, guess what? We need to be putting out a post about, did you know that we have a career ministry at our church? You should come check it out. Here's a link to learn more. Or if you're trying to, if you know single mothers are experiencing some issues with childcare, then definitely put out some posts about how you have a daycare at your church, or put out some posts about how you're having a parents' night out at your church. Or if you know that maybe they're experiencing some financial challenges and your church is participating in the Financial Peace University program with Dave Ramsey, then put out a post about that. This is how you create content that gets people to stop scrolling on social media. And that first starts with knowing everything there is to know about your audience. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Again, that I know that was a lot of information. If you're interested in learning more about creating a target persona, I have a workshop that's designed just to do that, and I will be glad to do that with y'all. So once you know who you're trying to reach, you next need to know what network, or decide what network do we need to be on. And here's some considerations. One, what is your purpose for being on social media? So that goes back to your goals that we established in number one, your why. What is your skill set? Let me tell you, if you are not skilled in Instagram, don't be an Instagram. If you're only skilled in Facebook, just focus on Facebook. What you don't want to do is water down your quality because you're trying to be everywhere and you're not really skilled in those other platforms. So focus on what you're good at. And then once you master that, or maybe as you're mastering it, recruit people who are skilled in those other platforms to assist you. But you yourself, if you are a team of one, and I've been there, you do not have to be on all the platforms. Pick one and master it. But you also need to figure out where's your target audience. So if you're trying to reach senior adults who are in their 70s or 80s, do you think they're going to be on TikTok? No. So you definitely want to make sure that you are aware of where your audience is at and make sure that you're on that platform. And then if you are considering online groups, then, you have to go to the platform where the online groups is at, and that's going to be Facebook. So those are just some considerations to keep in mind. The takeaway from this is make sure that you think about this. Where is our audience and what am I skilled in? Next, you're ready to build a team. And if it's a team of one, I get it. I feel your pain. I've been there. It does get better. I will let you know that. But if you have the ability to bring in volunteers to assist you, then here are some roles that you will need to fill. So you'll need a social media ministry leader. You'll need a content gatherer and a graphic designer. You'll need a photographer and a videographer, and you'll need a live stream team if you're doing live stream services at your church. I have provided here for you kind of job descriptions for each of those so you can kind of see what that person's going to be responsible for. But in the social media kit that I'll provide a link for at the end of this presentation, there is a more detailed job description for each of these roles. So let me go back to what just really quickly, what a content gatherer does. A person who is responsible for your social media content, there needs to be someone behind the scenes gathering all that content. Well, this person is going to be going out there and saying, okay, I have my target persona. I know what my audience wants to hear from us. How do I talk about that from a church context? Well, they sit down and they plan out all of your content for the next week, the next 2 weeks, or the next 30 days. And then they schedule that content and through whatever platform you're using. This person could also be responsible for creating the graphics for this type of whatever content pieces that they're putting out there. If you have a graphic designer at your church, great. You just need someone to go out there and build the content for your platforms. If you have a photographer on your media team, then you don't really necessarily need a photographer on your social media team. Just go and partner with the media team to grab great photos every single week that you can share on social media. And then a live stream team, we didn't have one of these before COVID. So we had to build one last year. And our live stream team is a team of 4 people. And we kind of alternate those roles out every single week. And that person is responsible for jumping on the live stream as soon as it starts and welcoming people to the service. They also provide links in the texting numbers throughout the service as we mention those things. And then when it comes time, okay, so I go to an African-American church. So we're very vocal whenever we're listening to the sermon. So whenever it's time for the sermon, we're going through and we're typing in those, those amens and those shouts and, those praise hand emojis. And that just keeps the conversation going. I will let you know that when we first started our live stream team, we went from having about 100 comments a service, and now we have over 500 comments every service, because now people are having conversations in that live stream chat. But it's also an opportunity for us to build relationships with our followers, because we go in there and we ask our followers, because we see them on a weekly basis. Hey, Sally, how's your week going? Last week, you mentioned that you were having some back pain. How are you feeling this week? And that just makes that person on the other end of that computer just feel a little bit special, because even though they're not able to attend the church physically inside the church building, they still feel like they're a part of it, because we're taking that extra step. You can almost think of it as like your church greeters. This is our greeting team for the live stream. So definitely go and check out those job descriptions, and let me know again if you have any questions. The next thing that you need in order to be successful for your social media ministry is a policy. And every single person who volunteers on your social media team needs to sign this policy. Now, I provide some examples for you in that social media kit, so definitely go and check that out. But here's what you're trying to do with the policy. You're trying to establish the correct tone and the brand voice when posting. And this is why this is important. A lot of times when I'm speaking with churches about social media and building teams, they say, oh, well, we have, some great young kids back here who would be great to do our social media ministry. Well, guess what? If you put that person, a young child, or, let's say a high schooler, in that role, they are going to be the voice of your church to the entire world. If they're not trained, they may actually, one, say the wrong thing, but two, they're going to talk to the world. They're going to put out, your voice as slang, or they're going to put out your voice as how they talk with their friends. They need to be trained. They need to know, how does the church respond to different situations? What is our voice? Are we contemporary? Are we traditional? What version of scripture do we use whenever we're sharing graphics out there? They need to know all of those things, and your policy needs to have something in there about each of those points. It also teaches your team to engage in how to respond to comments. And this is especially true when it comes to trolls, because, we have good trolls out there and we have bad trolls. And okay, I think there's some feedback there, but good trolls, these are people who generally have a genuine concern or a comment, but they're just coming off in a negative manner. In those situations, you need to get down to the root cause of whatever their issue is. And then you can, speak to them and take it offline, and then kind of deal with the situation from there. And then you have the bad trolls, and these are people who are just being negative to be negative, and there's nothing you can do to change their minds. Well, how do you handle that situation? Do you block them? Do you hide them? Do you ban them? Or do you refer that troll to your leader, your social media ministry leader? So this is, again, where your policy comes into play. It reminds your social media team to check their privacy settings. This is so important. If you are a leader at your church, you really shouldn't be putting too many crazy things out there on your social media plan. I mean, your profiles anyway, right? Because anybody could find you and they can automatically think whatever there is to think about the church based off of your profile. But especially if you're leading the social media ministry, it just kind of reminds them like, hey, maybe not wear a bikini in your profile photo, or maybe not share something that's really kind of polarizing about politics, on your platform. It just lets them know the do's and don'ts. It also reminds them to never post children on their personal profiles unless they have permission to do so. It reminds them to never complain about work. And I think a lot of people forget about this because we use social media as our counseling. So it says, hey, maybe not complain about the church, on your social media platform, or maybe wherever you work. So this is a great thing to have. If you do not have a policy, I would say make sure that you start one today and get your entire team to sign it. Something else that you also need is to have a release, a photo release on file for every child at your church. And this is the reason why, because a lot of times parents will say, okay, I'm okay with you sharing a picture of my child for internal communication, but I'm not okay with you posting my child on the website or posting my child on social media. So when you have that release, it allows you to do this. It allows you to opt out when it comes to children who are not allowed to be shared. It also allows you to find creative ways to identify children who cannot be photographed. So here's an example. Back at my church back home, we use lanyards, and sometimes we use bracelets to let the photographer know, hey, this child either can't be photographed, but if it's in a situation where they have to be photographed, I know on the back end when I'm pulling photos for social media to look at wrist or to look at the, the chest to see if there's a lanyard there to know, yes, I can post this photo, or no, I can't. When it comes to privacy, we focus a lot on children, but it is also comes to adults. And I actually had an adult come to me one time and say, hey, I saw that you posted me a picture of me in the sanctuary at church. Can you take it down? I do not want to be on social media. So what do you do in those situations? Well, when it comes to privacy, every church should have a disclaimer somewhere right when you walk into the sanctuary or right when you walk into the foyer at church, or maybe on your church website that says you are in an active recording environment and you give us permission to use your likeness on our website or in our social media. This is the same as if you were to go to a concert or you were to go to any type of public event. You give that event host permission to use your photo. So having that disclaimer just lets people know that, okay, I see it. I'm walking into the sanctuary. I know they are recording and they're taking photographs. If I'm not okay with that, I need to let somebody know. So that kind of covers you when it comes to adults. Now, if you go to a small church like mine back home that had less than 30 members, 30 members on a good day. But if you are like that, we went one step further after this one gentleman approached us, and we just had everybody, all adults and children, sign a photo release. That way, we were covered on our end and we knew exactly who we can photograph and who we couldn't. And then we proceeded from there. But of course, if you have a ton of members, that's not possible. Just stick with the disclaimer. So that is the steps to creating a social media ministry. Let's get into the tools. If this is your first time building a ministry, these are the tools that you need in order to succeed. And that is a mobile phone or a tablet. If you're ready to go one step further, you're looking at probably a DSLR camera. Mevo cameras are great. If you are wanting something a little bit more, fancier, I should say, and allows you more control, then we can talk about that. And I have a couple camera solutions for you if that's what you're wanting to do. You also want to make sure that you do all of your social media management from a laptop or a desktop computer, because trying to do it all on your phone is going to drive you absolutely insane. So make sure that you use your phone for those great quick shots, or maybe to capture that story content. And then you use your computer to actually focus on management. Next, you want to make sure that you have a standing tripod and a handheld tripod. And the reason I'm putting a handheld tripod in here is because stabilizers are really expensive. But if you want to spend that money on a stabilizer, great. They're a couple $100 all the way up to $1,000. But if you just want something to keep your camera steady, you can get just a tabletop tripod like the one shown here in red. And then you can just close the legs together. And this is what I do, is I walk up and down the aisles in the sanctuary with that to make sure that my camera is not shaky. That tripod is about $10. So to me, $10 is a whole lot better than spending close to $1,000 for a stabilizer. So that's something that you are interested in. Definitely go and get that tabletop or flexible tripod stand. But you also want to make sure that you get a 6-foot tripod as well, so you don't have to hold the camera when you're doing those single shots. So when you buy those tripods, make sure it comes with a mobile phone clip, because some of them do not. And you want to make sure that you have a Bluetooth clicker so you don't have to keep running back and forth to the camera. The next thing that you want to get is a microphone if you're using a cell phone, because guess what? People will forgive bad lighting, but they will not forgive bad sound. So anytime that you're using your mobile phone, make sure that you have a microphone plugged in. If you have an iPhone, I would recommend the Shure microphone. It's about $150 on Amazon, and it is amazing. You plug it into the iPhone lightning jack, and it comes with an app, and it kind of automatically detects what kind of setting you're in, and it adjusts the microphone for that setting. So if you're at a concert, it adjusts for that. If you're talking to one person, it adjusts for that. For Androids, you're looking at a headphone jack type of plug-in when it comes to microphones. And the Rode mic, and it's not on here, I'm so sorry about that, but that's RODE. That is an amazing microphone, and it's the original microphone when it comes to cell phone mics. Definitely check that out on Amazon because that will take your sound to the next level. You also want to make sure that you have a power bank charger, because I don't know about y'all, but I have too many apps on my phone. And as soon as I start recording anything or using any apps, my battery starts to drain. So I like to keep a power bank charger in my back pocket with the cord kind of hanging out. And I kind of, tuck that into my pocket as well. And I walk around with that. So as soon as my cell phone starts to drain, I can immediately start to charge it back up. A great power bank charger is, or a brand is Anker. That's ANKER. And those range anywhere from $20 to $60. And if you get the higher level Anker power banks, those will, if you charge it for 24 hours, those will last, up to 12 hours when it comes to your devices. You can actually charge your laptops with those. You can charge your tablets, and you can charge your cell phones. Though they're amazing. I would let you know that if you have an all-day event at your church, that is definitely one of the tools that you want to have. Now, when it comes to social media management, these are the tools that I say every social media ministry leader should have. And that is Feedly or Google Alerts. So you can stay on top of the news when it comes to updates with Facebook or Instagram or any other platforms out there. Google Drive, this is how you're going to get content from people at your church. There's also later in Hootsuite. So earlier we mentioned scheduling content in advance. This is going to save you a ton of time. And here's how I do it. I spend about 2 hours at the end of each month planning content for the next 30 days. And I schedule all that content in advance so I can focus on engagement throughout the entire month. And that's really the main goal when it comes to social media, and that's engagement. Now, that's not included on this presentation because, again, that's an entire different workshop, and we could talk about that for an hour within itself. But here's the deal. Content is half the battle. And if you're looking at formulas, I would say content is 30%, engagement is 70%. So once your content is figured out, you want to spend time actually building relationships with your followers by going in and responding to comments, by going into the search bar and seeing what people are saying about your church, by commenting on people that go to your church when they post something like a celebration, a life celebration, or maybe their child just went back to school. We're in that season right now. This is a great time for the church to go on all those photos and say, we're so glad to see John is back in school again. We're praying for his safety throughout this pandemic. This is how you go when you build relationships. So again, 70% engagement, 30% content. And later in Hootsuite and Creative Studio, those are great platforms to allow you to do that. Now, if you're like me, I have zero skills when it comes to design. We have a designer at our church that does that for us, but if there's a quick turnaround that we need, I use platforms like Canva and Over, which just got bought out by GoDaddy. So it's now called GoDaddy Studio. You can use those platforms to create great graphics in a matter of seconds. When our pastor, when he's finished with his sermon on Sunday, I already have like 3 takeaways that I want to share with our audience. I jump onto Canva. I use one of the photos that our photographer took. I get one of those quotes from his sermon message. I slap it on top of that photo of the pastor, and then I share it with our audience. That entire process takes me about a matter of 3 minutes at the most to create a graphic because the templates are already created on Canva and any other the design platform. What I love about Canva, though, is that it is free for churches. You just have to turn in your 501c to them in order to get their extended package or their pro level version of the app for free. So definitely type in nonprofit, + Canva in Google to see how you can submit your 501c to this platform. Now, if you're doing any type of story content, or you're on TikTok, or you're doing reels on Instagram, or maybe you just want to get out a great video clip on Facebook, I use InShot and VideoShop. These are mobile video editing apps that are less than $3 a month for the pro version, and they allow me to turn around video quickly. You can add sound to the background, you can add animations, you can do transitions, you can add stickers, you can add graphics, picture in picture. There are a ton of things that you can do with both of these. And this just allows you to do great videos without really being skilled in video editing. If I had to pick between the two, I prefer InShot. And I think it's $2.99 a month, or you can pay $23 or something like that a year to have the platform, all the features on the platform. If you're wanting to do some photo editing, I would recommend Snapseed and Lightroom, and these are both mobile apps, but Lightroom can also be a desktop version through Adobe Cloud. If you're wanting to create great story content, but you're like, I just feel like I'm not creative enough to do that, I would recommend Mojo, which is a video animated software that allows you to create great video stories, or Unfold, which is a template-based platform that allows you to plug in pictures or videos into their templates. And then you just save it to your camera roll and then upload to whatever platform you're using. And then if you've ever come across a post on Instagram and you're like, ooh, I would love to share this to our church's page on Instagram, I would recommend downloading Repost. And if you pay whatever the monthly fee is, I can't remember what it is, for Repost, you can actually take off the watermark so it doesn't actually show reposts on your picture. So I use Repost often because a lot of times our church members are sharing great posts while they're at church, and I want to share those to our platform as well. And that kind of just makes my job easier. I don't have to come up with what to post on our page. Our audience is doing it for us. Now, when it comes to inspiration, if you are wanting to be on TikTok, I want you to check out these churches. There's Elevation, there's City, I can't think of what the Rev is, if it's Revelation, probably. Relevant Church, Life Church, and Boo Church. Those are great churches that are using TikTok well. Check them out to see how you can do something similar. But keep this in mind, the goal isn't to copy what these churches are doing. You want to be inspired by what they're doing. So think about your church context and ask yourself, one, can we even do something like this? Does it make sense for our church culture? And then two, if it does, how can we do something that actually fits our church or fits our skill level, and then create something like that? Keep in mind, people are coming to your church because they are connected to you. There is something at your church that they value. They're not going to Elevation. So you definitely don't want to become the next Elevation. And that's not just with TikTok, that's with every platform out there. All right, so if you are using Instagram or Facebook, or you're considering those platforms at your church, these are churches in Texas. Some of them are outside of Texas that are doing amazing work on social media. Please go check them out and see how you can maybe do something similar at your church. If you're considering Pinterest, again, remember I said earlier, there's not a lot of churches on Pinterest, but there's two that really stand out, and that is Life Church and Brentwood Baptist Church. And then if you're considering YouTube, when it comes to YouTube, there are two churches that I found in my research so far that are just doing an excellent job when it comes to having a great presence on their YouTube channel, and that is Concord Church and North Point Community Church. Now, when it comes to these platforms, this is why I'm saying these platforms are great. As soon as you come to their page, the very first thing you see is a video from the pastor at the very top of the page, welcoming you to their channel and letting you know what their church is about. And then underneath that, they don't just have just the live stream videos. They do have those, but underneath that, they have playlists catered to all of the different topics about life. So if I'm going to their page and I just want to know about marriage, I can go to their marriage playlist. If I just want to see a quick devotional, like a 1-minute devotional from the pastor or maybe someone at that church, I can go to their devotional playlist. If I want to see just their worship music, I can go to their worship music playlist. They are thinking outside the box when it comes to their YouTube channel, and are not just posting videos or using their YouTube channel as a storage space. So definitely check those out and see how they have categorized and managed their homepage. And they also, I believe, they use sections on their homepage to kind of break up everything. So definitely check that out as well. All right, so yes, I have 10 minutes left. That is everything that I have for y'all. I know that was a lot and it's very high level. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My email address is listed there, my phone number. And And of course, if you have any questions about WMU and the ministries and the missions that we're able to make possible through our offering, go to our websites and check that out. I will tell you that if you really want to reach me quickly, go to social media. That's what I'm in all day, every day. So I'm on, and unfortunately, every single platform, and you can pretty much find me at I Am Brandy Jo, or you can go to my website as well, and that is iambrandyjo.com. And I'm in the process of updating it, but there are resources there dedicated for church leaders. And there's also a contact form on there if you have any questions and you want to reach out to me. Now, for my favorite part, the social media kit. If you have any questions, or if you want to know a little bit more details about the things that we covered today, I have created this kit that is updated on a weekly basis. So definitely go back and, check it often. But in that kit, I have 10 steps to social media success. I have sample social media policies. I have the live stream host guide that we created for our church last year. Job descriptions. I have photo release forms for children and adults. And I have worksheets in there. If you're ready to build a target persona, I have worksheets to kind of help you to figure that out. There's also a ton of content ideas in there. If you are wondering, what do we post as a church? Well, there are some resources in there that take all the guesswork out of it for you. We didn't talk about this, but every church should be asking their audience questions, because that's how you engage your audience. So I provided a list of engaging questions to get the conversation started on social media. And then, I don't know about y'all, but when I first got into this role, I didn't know anything about what reach meant, what impressions meant, when it comes to the analytics behind social media. So I provided a cheat sheet on there for you that kind of describes why reach is important, why impressions is important. When it comes to your live stream, should you be focusing on how many people you're reaching, or should you be focusing on how many times your YouTube thumbnail has been viewed? What's most important to your church? And then there's a ton of links to books. If you're starting a ministry and you're not really sure where to start or what to read, there's books in there. I have links to YouTube videos on tutorials on how to use Canva, or tutorials on how to use Ecamm if you have a Mac computer. And then also just some great links to some Facebook groups for church communicators. And this is what helps me to survive every single week. And that is by going to that group and seeing what church leaders around the world, when it comes to church communications, what they're experiencing and what solutions they've come up to for their problems. So definitely click on that link, and this is provided in the handout to you as well. And that's it. It's been a pleasure sharing with y'all today, and hopefully this has been helpful. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen there. And please, again, let me know if you have any questions. And thank you so much, Jerry, for the invitation. There we go.
Kept pushing the wrong button. Thank you, Brandy, for that. Wow, what a lot of great stuff. And what we'll do with all this, it'll be a few days before the video is available because of my schedule. But get that all done. When we post that on our YouTube channel, we'll have all those things in there. I'll put a link where you can download. There's a PDF of her entire presentation. So all that will be in there, and along with contact information. And so if you have any questions, Brandy obviously gave you her direct contact information, but anything that we can help with or facilitate along the way, don't hesitate to reach out to me or to Dave. And we will get you pointed in the right direction. And thanks again for sharing your time with us today. And already had some ideas on there about maybe having you come and do a little bit deeper dive on some things sometime. So
yeah, I'd love to.
So that'd be awesome. Anything from anybody before we call it done? Johnny? Well, thanks for those that joined us today, and for anybody that's watching this recording later, appreciate you watching it, and I hope it's helpful. So thanks a lot. I am going to